I don't know when it started, this slow pull away from each other, but I noticed it in little moments. Laura, my wife for over 20 years, had become distant. It wasn't anything obvious at first, just small things, like how her phone would buzz with a dozen messages from Steve, her ex-husband. They were friends, sure, but the messages, they didn't sit right with me. I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was paranoid, maybe I was overthinking it, but every weekend she'd say she was working or would go out with Steve, and the unease in my stomach grew a little more. I tried to ignore it. After all, we had a life built on routine. A house in the suburbs, 2 kids, a job that paid well enough. It was supposed to be enough. But something was changing in her, and I could feel it like a weight pressing down on my chest. I asked her, one night when we were sitting at the kitchen table, if she was seeing Steve again. The words came out before I could stop them. She laughed it off. "You're paranoid, Jake. You need to trust me more." She said it so easily, like it was nothing. But I wasn't sure what I was supposed to trust anymore. Still, I swallowed it down. Because what else was I supposed to do? Call her a liar? Say that I knew something was wrong when she didn't? She'd just dismiss me, and I'd feel like a fool. But the silence between us was growing. The passion we once had, the spark, had faded so slowly that I didn't even see it happen. It wasn't until I looked back that I realized we had traded it for routine and passive resentments. Maybe this was just a phase, I told myself. Maybe it was. Then, one morning, Laura asked me if I was okay with her visiting Steve over the weekend. She said it was for an art project she was helping with. A sinking feeling hit my stomach. I wanted to say something, ask if I could come along, but instead I nodded, trying to avoid another fight. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just about art. This was something else. As she left, I stood there, trying to shake the feeling that the threads of our marriage were unraveling faster than I could keep up with. And then it happened. Later that night, as she was getting ready to go out again, I saw her phone. I never looked at it. She always respected my privacy, and I respected hers. But this time, I couldn't help myself. A text popped up from Steve. "Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Can't wait to pick up where we left off." My stomach turned, a cold sweat creeping up my back. I stood there, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it. How could she do this? And why did she think I wouldn't find out? I needed to talk to someone. I needed to hear it from someone else. So I grabbed my phone, called Tom. He answered on the second ring. "Jake, what's up?" he asked, his voice familiar, casual. I could tell he was in the middle of something. "Tom, it's Laura. I paused, trying to force the words out. "I think she's seeing someone. I think she's been seeing Steve again. It's more than that." I saw the texts. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Tom was always the kind of guy who needed a minute to process, but I couldn't wait for that minute. I was losing my mind. "Damn," he finally muttered. "Jake, you need to confront her, right now. Don't sit on this." I felt a knot in my stomach tighten. "I don't know, man. What if it blows everything up? What if it's not as bad as I think?" "You're not stupid, Jake," Tom said, his voice firm now. "You know what's going on? If you don't confront her, you're just letting her get away with it." I hung up after that, feeling more confused than ever. Tom was right. Hell, I knew he was. But still, I couldn't shake the fear that if I confronted Laura, I'd lose everything. That night, she came home late, like always. She was all smiles, like nothing was wrong. She told me her weekend art project had gone well, but I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I just kept replaying that text in my head, the words echoing over and over. This weekend's going to be special. The same weekend she'd told me she was working. I didn't say anything to her. I just nodded, because I didn't know what to say. What was there to say? She had already made her choice. I wasn't even sure if I was a part of it anymore. Over the next few days, I started doing something I never thought I'd do. I tracked her. It wasn't hard. I knew where she'd been. I used her online accounts, her credit card info, even her work schedule, all to piece together what had been happening behind my back. Dinner dates, hotel reservations, receipts for flowers. All of it. It all pointed to Steve. I couldn't look away from the evidence piling up in front of me. She was seeing him. And it wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was an affair. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the mess of information in front of me, feeling something break inside me. The woman I loved, my wife, had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. She was choosing him. When Laura walked in that morning, her suitcase still in hand, I was already waiting for her. The house felt quieter than usual, even though I could hear the hum of the coffee maker in the kitchen, the way the clock ticked like it always did. But it felt different now. I wasn't sure what I was going to say at first, but the words hit me the second she closed the door behind her. The way she stepped inside, casual, like she'd just returned from a weekend trip to the store, not a weekend getaway with Steve. "Did you have a good weekend?" I asked, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. She paused, then smiled faintly. "Yeah, it was good. Busy. You know how it is." I couldn't hold it in anymore. "You've been lying to me, Laura. All this time, you've been lying. I saw the texts. I saw the phone bill. How long were you going to keep this from me?" Her face went white. She shook her head, almost like she was trying to convince herself. "Jake, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't," I snapped, cutting her off. "Don't play dumb. I know, Laura. I know about you and Steve. The texts, the hotel reservations, the dinner dates. I know everything. How long were you planning on hiding this from me?" I was breathing hard now, my fists clenched at my sides. My heart was pounding in my chest. She stepped back, shaking her head again. "Jake, please don't do this." "Don't do what? Confront you with the truth?" I could feel the anger rising, thick and hot, but I held it back, trying to stay composed. "Tell me why, Laura. Why him? Why this?" For a long moment, she just stood there, her eyes darting around the room like she was looking for an escape. Then, her shoulders slumped and she let out a breath. "I've been emotionally disconnected for months, Jake. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't feel like you were there anymore. You were always so focused on work, on everything but me. Steve was the only one who understood. He got me. He understood my creative side, something you never did." My stomach dropped. I felt like someone had sucker punched me. I never did? Was that really what this was about? "So you just turned to him?" I asked, my voice breaking despite myself. "After everything we've built, after all these years, you couldn't talk to me. You just ran to him?" Laura's face twisted with guilt. "It wasn't like that, Jake. It wasn't just about sex. It was about feeling seen. You haven't seen me in a long time." The words stung like cold water to the face. I felt humiliated, like I wasn't enough for her, like all the things I'd worked for, all the things we'd built together, didn't matter. It wasn't just the affair that hurt. It was how she made me feel small, like I was invisible. "I gave you everything, Laura. I thought I was doing all the right things. I worked hard for this life." My voice was shaking now. "I was there for you, every day. But you couldn't even come to me when you needed something. You just went behind my back. I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to fix it." "Are you leaving me?" I asked, my throat tight. I couldn't even say it without feeling like I was choking on the words. "Are you really leaving me for him?" She hesitated. It was the longest pause I'd ever heard. She looked down, as though she was trying to gather her thoughts. "I don't know, Jake," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know what I want." The room felt like it was closing in on me. All I wanted was a straight answer, but all I got was uncertainty. "Don't you know? Don't you know if this marriage is worth saving?" I spat the words out. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just defeated. I had nothing left to give. Laura didn't respond right away. Instead, she just stood there, her eyes distant. "I need time to think," she said quietly. I laughed, but it wasn't real. It felt hollow, empty. "Time? You've had time, Laura. Time to think about him. Time to think about us. Time to think about everything. And now you're asking for more?" Then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she said it. Her voice was casual, almost offhand, like she was talking about a grocery list or a bill that needed to be paid. "I've been talking to a divorce lawyer," she said, staring at the floor. It felt like the ground dropped out beneath me. Divorce? Was this really happening? She was already planning it. She had already decided. That fact, her telling me like it was no big deal, cut deeper than anything else she'd said. I didn't know what to do with that. The pain felt sharp, but it was mixed with something else now, something colder, a finality. Maybe I didn't want to keep begging for her to choose me. Maybe it was time to stop fighting for something that was already gone. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, still talking, still asking for time, but I couldn't hear her anymore. My mind was already elsewhere, on what was next. because I couldn't do this anymore. I spent the next few days in a haze, moving through the motions, but feeling like I was trapped in someone else's life. Everything was different now, and I wasn't sure how to act, how to think, or what to do next. But I knew I couldn't stay like this. Not in this house, not in this life. I started looking into divorce lawyers. At first I felt like I was doing something wrong, like maybe I should hold on a little longer, but I couldn't fool myself anymore. I'd been a fool for too long. Every search online, every email I sent felt like I was peeling back a layer of something ugly, but it also felt like I was taking control, like I was finally doing something for me. Then there was the house. I'd never thought I'd leave it, this place we'd built together, but it was suffocating me now. The thought of staying in that space where everything reminded me of her, of what had happened, was unbearable. I needed to go, needed to cut ties and start over. I felt the guilt though. It was hard not to. All those years, all that time, I'd given her everything, and now I was taking that away from her. But as the days went on, the guilt started to feel more like a weight I didn't have to carry. I couldn't stay in that headspace anymore. It wasn't just about the marriage anymore. It was about me, about reclaiming what I'd lost. So I called Sam. He was an old business partner of mine, the kind of guy who was always a step ahead, always on the move. I hadn't talked to him in months. He'd moved to London last year, taking over the European side of the company we'd started together. I was never the type to ask for favors, but I needed someone who could help me see a way out of this. "Hey man," I said when he picked up. "It's Jake. I need to talk." "Jake, of course, man. What's going on? You okay?" Sam's voice was always upbeat, but I could hear the concern behind it. "I don't know. Honestly, I don't. My life's falling apart. My wife, Laura, she's been having an affair. I don't know where to start." I exhaled, feeling like I was saying it aloud for the first time. Like, hearing it made it real. There was a long pause on the other end. "Damn, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I mean, I know things haven't been great for a while, but I didn't expect that." "I didn't either, but it's happening, and now I've been looking into separating, figuring out what's next. I can't keep living like this." Sam was quiet for a moment. "Look, Jake, I get it, and I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I think I've got something that could help. There's a position opening up here in London to run the company's European operations. I'd like you to consider it. New start, new place, everything. You're smart as hell. I know you could kill it." The offer hung in the air, tempting and terrifying all at once. The idea of leaving, it sounded so final. I'd lived in the same town my whole life. It was all I knew. Moving to London, starting fresh, could I do it? But then I thought about everything that had happened, about how Laura had made me feel small, invisible, like I was never enough. I thought about the years I'd spent putting her first, pushing my own dreams aside, and how she'd turn to Steve when I wasn't looking. The idea of getting out of here, of cutting ties and rebuilding something that was just for me, started to feel less like a risk and more like a necessity. Maybe I didn't need to stay in the town I'd always known. Maybe I was afraid of change. But wasn't it time to face that fear? I took a deep breath. "Sam, I think I'm in. I think I need this. I need to get out of here." "That's what I like to hear," he said, his voice lighter now. "We'll talk details later, but it's all yours if you want it. Just think about it, all right?" I hung up, feeling like a weight had been lifted. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. But just as I was about to make my next move, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Laura. "We need to talk before you make any decisions. Please." I stared at the message for a long time, the words feeling like a lifeline she was throwing to pull me back into the mess. I wasn't sure what she wanted to talk about. She'd already told me everything. She'd made her choices. But still, something inside me hesitated. Was I really ready to close the door on everything we'd built, on everything we were supposed to be? Or was this just the final conversation, the one where I found out if there was even a chance left at all? I didn't know what to do, but I was done being blind, done with the lies. Whatever happened, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I couldn't stay stuck in this place anymore. And for the first time in weeks, I finally felt like I was making a choice that was mine. The legal process was messy, but it moved quickly. Too quickly, really. I met with my lawyer, a woman named Linda, who gave it to me straight from the start. Fair distribution of assets. No more playing nice. She laid out what we needed to do, what I could expect. It all felt so procedural, like I was just another case to her. Like all the pain and frustration I'd been carrying had nothing to do with the ink on the page. The house will be the big fight, but you can walk away with everything else. I didn't care about the house anymore. When I met with Laura's lawyer, it hit me harder than I expected. The way they brushed me off, like I was a minor inconvenience. Her lawyer barely even looked me in the eye. It was all about the property settlement, the finances, the things that didn't matter anymore. Not once did they ask how I felt about it, how I was handling this. It was just the business of divorce. Laura insisted on the house. Of course she did. It wasn't just a house to her. It was everything we'd built, everything I'd worked for. But I didn't care. She could have it. It wasn't a home anymore, just a place that reminded me of what was lost. Throughout the process, I found myself becoming more and more detached. At first, there was the anger, the raw, burning rage that had made me question everything. But as the days wore on, that pain began to fade into something quieter, something colder. It was like my emotions were turning to ash. Every time I looked at Laura, I saw a stranger, a woman who was no longer mine, and the bitterness started to settle in, not in big waves, but in small, steady ripples. The life we had built together, the one I thought was solid, was now crumbling. I watched it, helpless but strangely numb. The house, the future we'd planned, it was all being divided like some puzzle I couldn't put back together. But I knew, deep down, I didn't want to. I didn't want that life anymore. And if I could walk away from it without feeling like I'd failed, I would. The divorce was finally over. The papers were signed, and the weight that had been pressing on my chest for so long started to lift. I moved into a small apartment in downtown London. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. It felt like a fresh start. The walls were bare, the furniture minimal, but every inch of the place felt like an open space, waiting for me to fill it with something that was just mine. At first, it felt strange. I missed the noise of a family, the constant hum of life happening around me. But then I got used to the quiet. I started to appreciate it. The silence was almost soothing, like it gave me room to breathe again. The weight of my past life was still there, lingering in the back of my mind, but it didn't suffocate me anymore. Work was easier too. I settled into the role for a while, and it felt good enough as a temporary fresh start. With the job settling in, I started picking up hobbies I'd neglected for years. Golf, for one. It was something I used to enjoy before everything went sideways. I joined a local club, and even though I wasn't good, I enjoyed the rhythm of it, the slow pace, the focus, the escape. It felt like reclaiming a small part of myself that I had let go of in the chaos of the past few years. I even started writing again. Not anything fancy, just notes in a journal, thoughts that had been bottled up. Sometimes it was just the day's frustrations. Other times it was reflections on the changes I was going through. And cooking. I'd forgotten how much I used to enjoy it. I'd never been a great cook, but making dinner on my own, testing new recipes, even burning a few things, felt like I was rediscovering my independence in the simplest way. It wasn't all easy, though. There were moments when I'd walk through the apartment and the empty rooms would hit me all over again. I'd sit in the living room, sipping coffee, and think about how strange it was not to hear Laura's voice echoing in the kitchen. But those moments became fewer, and in their place was something else. Peace. A kind of quiet that didn't feel like loneliness, but space. Space to grow. Space to be. Then one evening, as I was sitting on the couch with a beer and scrolling through Facebook, I saw a message from Steve. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won out. It was short. "Jake, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know you were still invested in the marriage. I never meant to hurt you." I stared at the message for a long time, not sure what I was supposed to feel. Anger, regret, but all I felt was nothing. Maybe some surprise, but mostly just a strange sense of closure. This man, who had been so important in my life and then my enemy, was now just a distant memory. He wasn't my problem anymore. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it hit me all at once. He was apologizing like it was some kind of redemption, like he thought I still cared enough to be hurt. "Never meant to hurt you," I muttered to myself, shaking my head. "Yeah, right." But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The apology didn't matter, because I was already done. I'd already moved on without even realizing it. A few days later, a message popped up from an old colleague, Nate. He had always been ambitious, always talking about starting his own company, and I'd never really given it much thought. But now he was offering me something different. "I'm starting my own marketing firm," the message read. "I think you'd be a great fit. It's a chance to do something you've always wanted to do. No strings attached. Let's talk." It was one of those moments where everything seemed to click into place. This was the opportunity I hadn't known I was waiting for. It was everything I had been thinking about in the back of my mind. This idea of shaping my future, of finally taking control in a way I never had before. But there was still hesitation. What did I really want? Was I ready to take that leap? The thought of starting a business, of building something from the ground up, was terrifying. But it was also exciting. It was a chance to define my own success, to build a life that was mine and mine alone. I sat back, staring at the message, the possibilities spreading out in front of me. I could do this. I had to. The last few months felt like they'd been built on shifting ground, but now, standing in this office, my office, everything felt solid. I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore, wasn't thinking about the past, the lies, the betrayal. I was looking ahead. This was mine. I'd built it. I'd fought for it. The office was simple, but it was all I needed. A clean desk, a few chairs, a big window that framed the skyline like something out of a movie. I didn't need to impress anyone. This space, this life, it was about me, finally. It wasn't about a marriage that was built on someone else's dreams or a career defined by what others expected of me. It was about my own vision, my own choices. I stood there for a minute, taking it all in. I thought about the guy I used to be, the one who let his worth be defined by other people, by Laura, by everyone who ever told him what he should want. That guy was gone. He'd been broken, manipulated, betrayed, but he was no longer the one in charge. I wasn't that guy anymore. I pulled my phone from my pocket, feeling a buzz from a message. It was from Tom, the guy who'd been there through the worst of it all. "How's everything, man?" his text read. I typed back, not thinking much about it, just responding in the simplest way I could. "I'm good. I'm finally good." I stared at the message for a few seconds, feeling the weight of those words. It was the truth. I was good. Maybe not perfect, but I was finally me. I wasn't running from anything anymore, and I sure as hell wasn't waiting for anyone to tell me who I was. I turned to look out the window at the city stretching out before me. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Optimism. The kind of optimism that comes from knowing you're not stuck anymore, from seeing possibilities where you once saw walls. I was ready for whatever came next. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email notification. One of the first big clients for my new company had signed on. The excitement that hit me was like a shot of adrenaline. Things were moving faster than I could keep up with. Clients, interest, opportunities. It was all happening at once. I had barely launched, and I was already gaining traction. I walked around the office, letting the moment sink in. Everything I'd been afraid of, failure, rejection, starting over, wasn't nearly as scary as I'd made it out to be. I had taken a leap, and it was paying off. A little while later, I checked my email again. Another message, this one from a business magazine, asking if I'd be willing to do an interview about starting a company from scratch. Just like that, my name was being recognized in a way I never thought possible. I hadn't even considered the idea that my company would take off this quickly, but it was. The excitement was still there, but it wasn't the same rush I'd felt when I first started. It was steady, satisfying. I wasn't doing this for validation anymore. I was doing it because I could, because I wanted to. And that felt like true freedom. I glanced back at the cityscape, the sprawling view from my office window, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a real sense of peace. The past was behind me. Whatever came next was up to me, and for the first time, that didn't feel overwhelming. It felt right. The road ahead was mine to shape, and I was ready for it.